Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Sandy Smith, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Warrant Officer Class 1 Joanne Davey. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial. If you are able, I now invite you to please stand and join in singing the national anthem. For those who are able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament. Flowers of the forest, wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Sergeant Harold Sullivan. Harold Sullivan was born on the 3rd of September 1886 in Blackwood, South Australia. He was one of 11 children born to William and Harriet Sullivan between 1873 and 1896. He also had 2 half-siblings from his father's first marriage. The family remained in Coromandel Valley throughout Harold's childhood. After finishing school, he worked as an orchardist. Harold Sullivan also spent 5 years in the Australian Light Horse before the outbreak of the First World War. Sullivan enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force on the 10th of September 1914 at Morfettville in Adelaide. He was assigned to the 9th Light Horse Regiment in the rank of trooper, but was promoted to sergeant a month into his initial training. The 3rd Light Horse Brigade left Melbourne on the 12th of February 1915 and arrived in Egypt on the 14th of March. Although initially the Light Horse were considered unsuitable for the operations in Gallipoli, the 9th Light Horse Regiment was deployed without their horses on the 16th of May 1915 to support the infantry already on the peninsula. The 9th was fortunate to be the reserve regiment for the brigade's disastrous attack on the Neck on the 7th of August, but subsequently suffered 50% casualties attacking Hill 60 on the 27th of August. Sullivan survived the fighting unharmed and was mentioned in dispatches by Sir Ian Hamilton for his actions during the fighting. Only a few days later, Sullivan was evacuated from the peninsula, suffering from dysentery. He was sent to London to recover and spent the remainder of 1915 convalescing. He finally rejoined his battalion in Egypt on the 14th of February 1916. After the Gallipoli campaign, the 9th Light Horse became part of the Anzac Mounted Division. On the 27th of February, the regiment joined the Egyptian Expeditionary Force at Serapeum to assist in defending the Suez Canal from the Ottoman drive across the Sinai Desert and into Egypt. The regiment remained in the region for the next few months. After the Battle of Romani, it was involved in the advance that followed the Ottoman retreat across the desert. On the 9th of August 1916, Sergeant Harold Sullivan led a squad of 4 light horsemen, including himself, to assist machine gunners stationed near Romani. Sullivan and 2 other men proceeded, dismounted to the machine gunner's position. As they were retiring, the men and another wounded light horseman were captured by Ottoman forces. The wounded light horseman was left alone due to the difficulties in moving him, while Sullivan and the other 2 men in his squad were made prisoners of war. Sullivan was interned briefly in Turkey at Afyon Kara Hisar before being transferred to the prison camp at Angora in October 1916. There, his health deteriorated. He was admitted to hospital in February 1917, suffering from chronic enteritis. Despite receiving medical treatment, Harold succumbed to his illness, dying on the 11th of February 1917. He was 31 years old. Harold Sullivan was buried in the Armenian cemetery at Angora. His grave was marked as being British, but had no other identifying markers. In 1928, his remains were exhumed and reinterred in the Baghdad Northgate War Cemetery. As the graves were unmarked, Sullivan is commemorated on the Angora Memorial within the cemetery. His headstone contains the inscription selected by his family in Adelaide: "He died for us." His name is also listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, amongst almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Sergeant Harold Sullivan, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old as we the left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of our director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.